everybody! Today, Honey is going to continue reading Wayside School is Falling Down, written by Louis Shacker and illustrated by Tim Houch. Chapter 9, Mush. Warning: do not read this story right after eating. In fact, don't read it right before eating either. In fact, just to be safe, don't read this story if you're ever planning to eat again. Miss Mush wiped her hands on her apron. She smiled at the children who were lined up at the cafeteria. It warmed her heart to see how much they liked her food. Maricia was first in line. "And what would you like today, Maricia?" Miss Mush asked. She knew the name of every child in Wayside School. Maricia looked at the sign. "Special today, mushroom surprise." "Just milk," said Maricia. "I brought my lunch." Miss Mush smiled and gave Maricia a carton of milk. Joy was next in line. "And what would you like, Joy?" asked Miss Mush. "Milk," said Joy. Miss Mush smiled and gave Joy a carton of milk. "And what would you like, Jason?" "Milk, please," said Jason. "Just milk," said Damien. "Milk," said DJ. "Milk," said Leslie. It was almost Ron's turn. He hadn't brought a lunch. He normally brought a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to school, but there hadn't been a single slice of bread with his house in this morning. "I know," his mother had said. "I'll give you some money and you can buy a nice hot lunch from Miss Mush." She thought it was a brilliant idea. "Can I just have a bit peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the bread?" Ron had asked. Now he looked up at the sign. "Special today, mushroom surprise." He wished he weren't so hungry. This was the 18th day in a row that the special was mushroom surprise. It was called mushroom surprise because it had been a surprise if nobody had ever ordered it. No one did, except Louis, of course. That's why they'd had it for 18 days. There was always plenty left over. "Milk," said Terrace. "Milk," said Cherry. "Milk," said Calvin. "Milk, please," said Phoebe. "And what would you like today, Ron?" said Miss Mush. Ron took a breath. "Mushroom surprise," he squeaked. Tears of joy filled Miss Mush's eyes. She blew her nose on the apron, then said, "One mushroom surprise, coming right up." Tears came to Ron's eyes too, but for a different reason. He looked at the mushroom surprise. It was sort of green. So was Ron. Miss Mush proudly dumped a hot lump of mushroom surprise on a paper plate and handed it to Ron. He put it on his tray, then pushed it over to the cash register, where he paid for it. The news quickly spread around the cafeteria, then up and down the stairs, out to the playground. "Ron ordered the mushroom surprise! Ron ordered the mushroom surprise!" Mrs. Jules was sitting in the teacher's lounge on the 12th floor when Phoebe burst into the room. All the teachers were shocked to see her. "Phoebe, you're not allowed in here," said Mrs. Jules. "This is a secret place." "Ron ordered mushroom surprise," Phoebe shouted. Then she ran back to the cafeteria. As Ron sat down at the table, 87 kids crowded around him to watch him eat. "I wonder what the surprise is," said Dee. She had the best view. She was pushed right up alongside Ron's chair. "Maybe it tastes good," said Leslie. "Maybe that's the surprise." "No, I think it's called mushroom surprise because after you eat it, it's a surprise you don't die," said Mac. "Louis eats it. He's not dead," said Jason. "Louis had been eating Miss Mush's food for so long he's immune to it," said Allison. Ron dug a plastic fork into the goop. He raised it into his mouth. Dana crowded his eyes. "I can't watch," she exclaimed. Ron opened his mouth wide. The fork entered. He brought the fork out again. It was empty. Ron chewed twice, then swallowed. "He ate it," Dee announced for those who couldn't see. Steven screamed. Said Ron. "Not too bad. It sort of tasted like a mixture of bananas and spinach. "What's the surprise?" asked Dee. Ron looked at Dee. His face flushed and his eyes changed color. His whole body began to shake, like a washing machine, like a spin cycle. Dee was afraid he was going to throw up. She tried to get away, but everyone crowded around. There was no room for her to move. But Ron didn't throw up. He stood up, put his arms around Dee's neck, and kissed her smack on the lips. He sat back down, his eyes turning their normal color. "Yeah," said Dee, wiping her mouth on the sleeve. "What's the matter?" asked Ron. "Don't you know what you just did?" asked Allison. He shrugged. "I had some mushroom surprise. It wasn't bad, sort of like a mixture of hot dog and grape jelly. I wonder what the surprise is." He dug his plastic fork back into the goop. Everyone ran away. When Mrs. Jules entered the cafeteria, no one was there except for Ron. He was sitting alone at a table eating mushroom surprise. Mrs. Jules sat down next to him. "Hi, Ron," she said. "So, how does it taste? What's the surprise?" Ron swallowed another mouthful. He looked at his teacher. His face flushed and his eyes changed color. Chapter 10. Music. Benjamin still hadn't told anybody he wasn't Mark Miller. His grade had never been better. Mark Miller is not less smarter than Benjamin Nushmut, he thought. Then they chose up teams for kickball. He was always the first one picked. Mark Miller is a better kicker than Benjamin Nushmut, he realized. The girls in the class liked him too. Mark Miller is better looking than Benjamin Nushmut, he decided. But unfortunately, he knew that he would tell Mrs. Jules his real name. He sighed, then slowly raised his hand. Mrs. Jules gave him a tambourine. He had been busy thinking about his problem. He hadn't noticed that Mrs. Jules was passing out musical instruments. She had just asked who would like the tambourine. So when he raised his hand, she gave it to him. "Who would like the triangle?" asked Mrs. Jules. Joe raised his hand, and Mrs. Jules gave it to him. "Why is it called a triangle?" asked Joe. "I don't know," said Mrs. Jules. "Maybe because it's shaped like a triangle," suggested John. "No, that can't be it," said Mrs. Jules. "Then the tambourine would have to be called a circle." "Maybe it was invented by a person named Joe Triangle," said Rondi. "That's probably it," said Mrs. Jules. She held up the next instrument. It was a glockenspiel. "Who would like a glockenspiel?" she asked. Shirley raised her hand. Nobody asked why it was called glockenspiel. It was obvious. Mrs. Jules gave the balls to Stephen. "Why are they called balls?" he asked. Nobody knew. Joy got bongo drums. Todd got bass drum. Jenny snored the snore drum. And Leslie got the kettle drum. And they banged on them. It hurt everybody else's eardrums. Mrs. Jules gave the one cymbal to Calvin and another cymbal to Bibi. DJ got the gong. And the three Erics got kazoos. Mrs. Jules shouted, "Uno, dos, tres, cuatro." The children all played their instruments. They shook, rattled, rocked, and rolled. Joy bonged her bongos. DJ gonged her gong. Shuri glockened her glockenspiel. Stephen jingled his bells. Calvin and Bibi slapped their cymbals together, and Joe's triangle went ting. But something wasn't sound right. "What's wrong, Mark?" said Mrs. Jules, shouted over the music. "Why aren't you playing the tambourine?" "My name's not Mark," said Benjamin. "It's Benjamin Nushmut. I'm sorry for not telling you before." "What?" said Mrs. Jules. "I can't hear you." "My name isn't Mark. It's Benjamin." "Louder!" said Mrs. Jules. So everyone played louder. Todd bashed his bass drum. Leslie cooked on her kettle drum. Calvin and Bibi crashed their cymbals together, and Joe's triangle went ting. "My name Miss Benjamin!" shouted Benjamin. Mrs. Jules put a hand to her ear. "Louder!" she said, so everyone played louder. DJ kabonged his gong, Joy tangled her bongos, Paul splacked his castanets, Jenny spaghettied her snare drum, Calvin and Bibi warmed their cymbals, and Joe's triangle went ting. "My name's Benjamin Nushmott," hollered Benjamin Nushmott. "Louder!" yelled Mrs. Jules. So everyone played louder. The three Erics screamed in their cajoos. Calvin and Bibi ran to opposite sides of the room with their cymbals and charged toward each other. Suddenly the door flew open and a man entered. Benjamin had never seen him before. The whole class became very quiet. It was Mr. Kidswater, the principal. Calvin and Bibi screeched to a halt just in time. Their cymbals were less than an inch apart. "Is something the matter, Mr. Kidswater?" asked Mrs. Jules. "Several teachers complained about your music," said Mr. Kidswater. "Their students are having trouble hearing." "I understand," said Mrs. Jules. "Good," said Mr. Kidswater. He walked out of the room. "Okay, you heard Mr. Kidswater," said Mrs. Jules. "We'll have to play louder so everyone can hear. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro." They shook, rattled, rocked, and rolled. Benjamin flamped his tambourine. "Excellent, Mark!" shouted Mrs. Jules. He smiled. He had never played so well before. "Mark Miller is a better musician than Benjamin Nushmott," he thought. Chapter 11. Kathy and DJ. Down on the playground, Kathy was singing her favorite song. "Wayside School is falling down, falling down, falling down. Wayside School is falling down, my fair lady. Kid goes fell as hit the ground, hit the ground, hit the ground. Kids go splat as they hit the ground, my fair lady." DJ was walking across the playground with his head down. "Hi, Dr. Jolly," said Louis. Louis called DJ Dr. Jolly because he was always smiling. But now DJ's smile was upside down. He looked at Louis. Louis had never seen such a red face. "What's wrong?" he asked. DJ just shook his head and then looked back down at the playground and sadly walked away. Louis felt like crying. "Hey, Louis, what's wrong with DJ?" asked Ron. "He's so sad," said Dee. "I don't know," said Louis, shaking his head. "Hey, you guys want to play kickball?" "No thanks," said Dee. "I can't have fun when DJ is unhappy." "Me either," said Ron. Across the playground, all the children quit their games when they saw DJ. Nobody could have fun when DJ looked so sad. Even Kathy, she sang. "Broken bones and blood and gore, blood and gore, blood and gore. Broken bones and blood and gore, my fair lady. We can have no school no more, school no more, school no more. We don't have to no school more, my fair lady." The bell rang. DJ sadly looked up at the school and sighed. "Hey, DJ!" "Snap out of it," said Myron. DJ stared through his friend. "You want to walk up the stairs without Dojo?" asked Damien. DJ shook his head. "I need to be alone," he mumbled. Damien and Myron looked at each other. They started up the stairs, leaving their friend behind. DJ headed on up, but stopped halfway between the 9th and 20th floors and sat down. He lowered his face into his hands and cried. A moment later, someone burst out laughing. DJ opened his eyes and saw Kathy standing over him. "You shouldn't sit down on the stairs, dumb jerk," said Kathy with a glee. "I almost kicked you in the head." Kathy always called DJ dumb jerk. She didn't like DJ because he was always smiling. Now she was glad to see him so sad. "Hi, Kathy," said DJ. She plopped down on the stair next to him. "What happened?" she asked. "Did your dog die?" She laughed. DJ shook his head. "Are your parents getting divorced?" she asked hopefully. "Did your house burn down?" "No," said DJ. "My great-grandfather gave me a gold watch. It was over 100 years old. I brought it to school and today and You lost it, Kathy exclaimed and with delight. DJ sadly nodded. Kathy laughed. Oh boy, you're going to get in trouble. She rubbed her hands together. Your parents will ground you forever. No, my parents will never punish me, said DJ. They know I learn from my mistakes. Oh, said Kathy, a little disappointed. But your great-grandfather will hate you, she said, and he'll never give you another present for the rest of your life. Not even for your birthday. No, he loves me no matter what I do, said DJ. He likes people, not things. Again, Kathy was disappointed. But the watch was worth a lot of money, she said, and you'll have to pay for it out of your allowance. She laughed triumphantly. Sure, she had gotten him this time. I don't get an allowance, said DJ. I don't like money. Kathy frowned. Still, she knew there had to be some reason why he was sad about losing his watch. You will never know what time it is, he squawked. So, said DJ, time isn't real. Kathy didn't know what DJ meant by that, but she didn't care. Well, if you don't know what the time it is, she told it, you'll miss all your favorite television shows. I don't have a favorite television show, said DJ. I never watch television. He thought a moment. I'm not sure if we have a TV in our house or not. Maybe there's one in the closet somewhere. Kathy glared at him. Well, then how come you're so sad you lost that dumb watch? She demanded. I'm afraid a bird might think it's a food and choke on it, said DJ. Is that all? Shrieked Kathy. DJ smiled. I guess you're right, he said. A bird probably wouldn't choke. In fact, maybe he could use it to make a nest. I hope so, don't you? He hopped to his feet. Thanks for talking to me, Kathy. I feel a lot better now. You're a good friend. He hurried up to Mrs. Jules' room, taking the stairs 2 and 3 at a time. As DJ's smile turned up, Kathy's smile turned down. She followed up after him, grumbling to herself. He doesn't like money. He doesn't worry about time. He would never watch television. Why, he is always so happy. Everyone in Mrs. Jules cheered when they saw DJ enter the room, smiling. Kathy walked in behind him, frowning. Mrs. Jules was getting ready to show a movie. She gave DJ a piece of black construction paper. Hey, look! Exclaimed Myron. Audley found a watch. Audley, the bird, dropped the watch on the windowsill. Kathy couldn't believe it. It's DJ's, she gripped. Myron gave the watch to DJ. Here, you can have it, Kathy, said DJ with a big smile. It's worth a lot of money, and this way you don't miss any of your favorite television shows. Kathy took the watch from him and put it around her wrist. It'll probably make my skin turn green, she gasped. Mrs. Jules started the movie projector. Stephen turned off the light. Damien pulled down the shades. DJ held a piece of black construction paper under his nose because his smile was so bright.